shoulder, hip. You're nice and long through the waist, so we're activating our base of support and our shoulder. And we're just going to float this leg up into our clam, and then knee knock, toe tap, knee knock. So it's like a clam, but then we're also working on internal rotation. Imagine that, well, make sure that your pelvis isn't going backward or forward. The pelvis is not moving, it's all in the hip joint. Opening, closing. Make sure your base of support in that underneath hip and that shoulder is working. And then from there, we're going to lift that, allow that top leg to lift. We're going to go into flexion in the hip. Now in flexion in the hip, there's a dorsiflexion in the ankle joint. So that means that our heel is longer. And then we're going to do internal rotation, and we're going to point the toe. So flex the heel when the hip is in flexion, and point the toe when the hip is in extension. There is also something else that happens. We have a slight internal rotation at that hip joint. When we go back, there's a slight external rotation that happens in the hip joint. So just focusing, if you can only just focus on the hip, just focus on the hip. But functionally what happens is that's what's happening in the ankle joint. From here, we're going to go into some circles in the hip, 10 each way. 8. Now if you're really feeling this gripping, try and imagine that this adductor is lengthening, the inside thigh is lengthening. And we're really pressing into that bottom leg to feel it even more. Change sides. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good. Let's change over to the other side. Let's do all that on the other side. Knee knocks and toe taps. Set up. Hips on hips, shoulders on shoulders, waist long. Start with your clam, and then knee knock the toe. Knee knocks, toe taps, or knee knocks and clams. Make sure pelvis isn't rolling back. You could do this against a wall if you feel that you're moving too much for added stability. Keep breathing in that 360 degrees. Really feeling that in the glute med. And then you're going to come on up. Flexion, dorsiflexion, plantar flexion as you go back, internal rotation at the hip. Slight external rotation, slight internal rotation. Let's make this functional. Keep that breathing. Let's also train our brains to the functional side. Feeling that in the back of the hip. And 10, I'm just guessing. And then circles, 10 each way, 10. Three, 2, 1, and then change direction. You're almost there, guys. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.